Okay, well, we had some technical glitch-em-ups. We didn't. Actually, I did. I don't know what this thing does. I mean, this phone. It just kind of like turned itself off. Next thing I know, I'm looking at the home screen, kind of going, huh? Then I tried to restart or something, and then I hit, you can see me, I suppose, if you care to even touch anything other than what I'm holding with my left hand. I get the feeling some kind of weird little stray thumb movement. Sort of like sort of like a subtle wink of a movement. Somehow turns the phone off or something. It's like, what? So this thing has it's sort of like if you had a pistol with what they used to call, or maybe they still do, a hair trigger. And if you ever operated a hair trigger, you know what I'm talking about. And if you don't, well, think about it and do some imagining and talk to somebody who does. Pick up a gun and click, click. Feel how hard you have to pull to make that thing fire. You need to know. Well, you should. Anyhow, it's kind of nice being out here in that, by virtue of being on video, no phone call can interrupt. Same with text messages. And it's not like I get all kinds of messages, but some days I just get tired of interacting with people. And, not anything against people, because I happen to share the same race. And there's really only two races of the humans. And, some people think, well, Christianity might have something to do with bigotry and racism and all that. Well, here's my Christian statement. You make of it as you will. There's only two races in the long run. Well, you might call them the living and the dead. You might call them the children of God and the children of the devil. You might call them children of light, children of darkness. I don't know. I prefer living and dead. But anyway, I got a funny story. I still consider him to be a pastor in my life. And, I love his advice and input and whatnot. But anyway, Pastor John, one day I was talking. This is years ago. And I don't know why at the time, I can't recall, why I was thinking about the topic of what we call in America interracial marriage. I'm not even certain that the ancient peoples, the so-called primitive peoples, would have even understood the idea of interracial marriage other than some sort of human hybridization program, some grotesque genetics scheme, I don't know. Anyway, our idea of marrying black and white and black, whatever, or brown, there's Oriental, there's all kinds of different folk. I said, John, what do you think about, intermarriage between races? He said, oh, the Lord is definitely against that. Definitely. He will not, he does not bless, he does not ask his children to ever enter interracial marriage. And I thought, wow, and I was hearing him as an American. I was probably in my late 30s at that time. I don't know, it was quite a while ago. And I thought, well, I didn't see that one coming. This guy's, what has he got, a Klansman business card too? It wasn't like that at all. What he was saying was, look, there's only two races, the living or the dead. In the Old Testament, it looked like this. Hey, you Mr. or Mrs. or Miss Israel. You're looking to get married, you're looking to get hitched, don't you think about looking outside the tribes of Israel for a mate. Do not intermarry with as they used to call them, the Gentile dogs, and I think they still do, if you'd like to know. Hey, okay, I'm coming up on Park B, which is kind of why I wanted to come down here, because it's nice and cool and green, and it just looks lovely. What I'm going to do before we go any further, I'm going to invert camera, I hope. And it is not a large park. I'm going to say this is maybe better than an acre a little bit, but the thing I like is them big old tall trees. Actually away from the roadway, so highway sounds don't come down here too much. And the greenery and the plants beneath my feet feels so nice to walk on grass. Oh, it's good for my back to do that. It's kind of like I've only had opportunity once or twice to ever even be at a beach, where sand. But, walking through sand isn't that unusual an experience down here. But we got plenty of sandy beaches. We call them sunny beaches down here. We got more sunny beaches here. Never mind. Hey, look at here. Yellers. I've heard dandelion's supposed to be good for you. So I never stomp on them or pull them up just because. It doesn't bother me whether they fluff out to them, you know. It's like a gray, sort of like a gray little blast off of umbrellas. And these little spores have seeds, carrying seeds. And look here. Late April. I think we can maybe zoom boom a little bit. This is probably not the most exciting video you've watched in days. It's a little difficult to pick out. The camera resolution here is not great. But I'm walking into a kind of a nice little slug. What do you call them? Dandelions. I think some folks, you know, they pick the leaves and stuff. And I heard you can make tea out of that, although I haven't ever tried. You know, I've heard some people say it's real good. Oh, I just kind of want to decide here. See, I got a park bench over yonder. I came down here really to sit down. My lower back is killing me. And I don't want to sit down and find out that just makes it even... Okay, I'm going to sit on a chair. There's a bench just another 74.26 yards away. My dad used to do that all the time to me when I was a kid. You know, be on a long trip. Hey, Dad, when are we going to get there? You know, we're driving from Albuquerque to Kansas City, basically. We will be there at 3:23 in the afternoon tomorrow. Now, you know, this is like 9 o'clock at night. We will arrive at your grandfather's house at 3:23. You will step out of the door at 40 seconds after that. You know, and it's like, gosh, how could he possibly know all that? And, you know, I was just a little kid. I didn't know. And all he's got to do is either speed up or slow down a little bit. And then maybe if he has to at the very end, just change up the story a little bit. The guy can't be wrong, you know. And so I learned early on that there are certain tactics in human interaction where you cannot be proven wrong. And you know what one of those is getting back to Jesus and all that, the good stuff, is that in the dirty politics and in the lying and all the, traitorous. These our founding fathers, I don't know that they were all so heroic and noble as all that. I think they were influenced by Christianity, if perhaps even not entirely in their pattern of belief. What I mean is a lot of these guys are pretty heavy-hitting Freemasons. Freemasonry is not the same thing. It's not close as Christianity. No, way too much esoteric links, and there's essentially, it goes directly into sort of, what you call it, mainline occultism. It may not be, however, at the top layers, and I really don't know how many final layers there are in that organization, and don't care to find out. We're looking at an agglomeration of stuff in our times. We got power mad liars and perpetual frauds and perverts, and then it goes downhill from there, in office. I mean, these people are criminally insane, at least. I mean, these guys would be prosecutable for felonies. I mean, legally, really calling down capital punishment. It wasn't that long ago in this land that treason against the United States of America, aiding and abetting an enemy, was a federal offense that could merit death. I say hooray, let's recall those good old days and apply it right where it belongs. Let's start with Fauci. Let's start with Biden. Let's start with that so-called, what's her name, the communist. Well, let's not forget Bill and Hill. Let's not forget D.O. and that other person, whoever he or she might be. Yeah. Let's start there. Well, that's what common folks say, but you know, that's never going to happen, right? You know that? Here, I'm going to take these off so I can be really emphatic with you. You know what I'm talking about. That ain't going to happen. These rich and powerful folk, they're never going to pay. Not in this world. But the Christian knows a little more. We've been told good news indeed. You know, this high treason, this insane rebellion against order, against truth, against decency, against being loyal to your family, being good to your word, being trustable, and you know, pay your taxes, love your kids, hug your wife, You know, the stuff that makes sense, the stuff that people actually use in their lives to thrive by. What the government, anytime you see a tyranny, and I don't care if it's a I'm not sure I want to say coming American tyranny. I think it already arrived. I think what it's doing is it's busy unpacking just now, rearranging furniture, if you'd like to know, whether we like it or not. We've been evicted. We've been sold down the river. And I've got a great big X on my head. Because guess what? One of the strong suits of this whole corrupted regime, which is now waxing into this super traitorous, instead of not only is Biden carrying on a coup d'etat, but he is in fact in service, in pay really, to foreign powers. This is the new low spot. Honestly, if you'd asked me in anywhere 2008 to 2016, Mike Labor's opinion was worst president ever, easy peasy. The guy we got right now, B.O. I used to call him the Hat Rack Orama, because he there's like a hat rack. Today's what hack has he got on today? Oh, today I'm the little hipster. Oh, today I'm the cool street dude. Hat Rack Orama. Total. It's kind of like those old Clint Eastwood movies. When you look, forget about it. I like Clint. He's a good guy. But I mean, when you look at the town, it's all front. Yeah, I got to do a hand thing. It's all front, no back. It's just facades. It's just fronts of buildings. And you can tell by looking at it too that those aren't buildings. And I just love that stuff. It's just like, they know they're in a phony movie. They know they're in a phony world. I'm going to peruse one of these here for a moment. I hope that you might want to close your eyes. There are children watching this show. Kids, please close your eyes. While the old guy offends nature. I've been smoking ever since I was a little rascal. I'm not sure, but I think I was about 8 when I first started really smoking. Now, I might have experimented around as early as 7, but it's kind of squishy on the details. I mean, that was quite a while ago, okay? But anyway, here's how I started. My mom, she was a big time smoker just like me, and I was always trying to talk her out of it. Like, Mom, that stuff's killing you. Knock it off. Why are you? And then I began to think, as a little bit older, teen, like mid-teen, I began to realize, put it together, big guy. Your mother, for all her blessed strengths and weaknesses, whatever the situation is, the woman is not stupid. She knows what she's doing. This ambition to live forever and all that, the only sense in which that could make sense, really, I mean, at work, would be in the presence of the Lamb, with the people, in a land that's blessed and clean and new. In other words, that's where the righteous go. And it's a wonderful thing. I can't even begin to describe it because I ain't been there. That was a big problem there. But I don't know. It's just his presence in our lives. It's just so warm and welcoming and real. And it's just kind of like, boy, reality reflects our Lord. Look around me here a little bit. You see the colors green. You see the colors blue. If you listen carefully, if that loudmouth quit talking, you can still hear a dove or two in the area. And this is what I like to do, get outdoors. My little trailer's okay, but I mean, come on. It's kind of like living in a hallway, about 8 feet wide. I think it's 40, maybe 4. I forgot how long the thing is, but it's not like it really matters. I mean, it's like, gee, if I could just get rid of that range, furnace, refrigerator, and kitchen table, I could move around in here. And then on top of that, until recently, really in the last, it's been a long process. That vacuuming thing the other day was rather traumatic. I think I harvested, I told you, close to 2 shovelfuls of real fine sand out of my carpet. And the carpet's pretty small. It's like I said, it's like living on one bowling alley. That's my house, one bowling alley. And so it's very clumsy. It's okay for one person, and I suppose a couple could live there without murdering each other, but I mean, there's just no room to get around the other person if you're both in the same room at the same time. So it's not exactly the most convivial, shall we say, setting to have social gatherings. Besides that, it looks really bad. I like things that look bad. I like things that beat up. Here, speaking of beat up, take a look at this bad boy. That's what I call my That's an old work hat. I think I'm kind of done with working these days. I hope I still got some days where I go out in the field and, get dirty and jump up and down the ditch and cuss and stuff. And by the way, if you're going to be a good plumber, you got to learn how to cuss in Spanish because, it works a lot better. But the thing is that you get out here and it's nice and it's not really cool, but I can tell you it's cooler in the shade. It's not a hot day. It's a lovely day. But when you begin to think about how all of these things are coming together in our world such that, I don't know. Here's a thought. Tyranny. How did tyrannies come about? How did the ancient Roman governance turn from a senatorial process of some kind from an elected emperor, I think, to a sort of self-appointed god called the emperor, who told the Senate that they may continue to exist as long as they abide by his will, or whatever whatever the Caesars became, these self-proclaimed gods. And that was the environment, that was the atmosphere at the time. And so the writers of the book, they do mention this. It was a part of their culture. It was a big part. And, we think, we're Americans, that was a long time ago. That doesn't have anything to do with us. It's like, what is this, a history lesson? Nah. It ain't, well, it should be a history lesson. It happened, it's real. But the thing is that given all the deep and vile levels of corruption, Joe, whatever his middle name is, and who cares? Guess what? I can't remember Joe Biden's middle name. How appropriate. Anyhow, I can't stand that guy. Oh, and anyway, I think he's the new low. First, if you'd asked me in 2010, I would have said worst ever, Barack. Second worst ever, it's hard to tell, Jimmy Carter or Slick Willie. Slick was number 2 worst. Jimmy, easy, number 3. Franklin, I kind of want to move Franklin up 4. Johnson, but there was Johnson. And then Wilson, and the wreckage and the mayhem wrecked all across the 20th century and around the world by American Democrats. And honestly, I think my dad and mom were registered as Democrat. There's a strong streak in me. I'm a working class. I could have been a Democrat, but not when they're going to start telling me that, A, you can deny biology, somehow defeating the rule of logic in the process, and turning the English language into a train wreck that could not possibly convey meaning. And that's what they call progress? That's all head crap. That Marxist junk came out of the 60s, 50s, 60s, and 70s, out of the United States university higher education system. And guess what? The proud young graduates of that system are those who are in power now. Put it together, big boy. They don't have that same old Harry Truman Democrat. Now, Harry was as crooked as day is long, too. Plus, he's pretty mean. But he got things done, you got to admit. I would not have been, if I'd been alive at the time, if I'd been invented. Sorry, nature calls. If I'd been invented way back, I could have probably voted for Harry. Who's the other guy? And it was some guy, Adlai Stevenson or somebody. I don't know who it was. Anyway, that was before I was invented. But the point that I'm saying is that the treachery, disaster, corruption, violation of oath, bankrupting, and undermining the very basis for the institution called the United States of America, founded upon a representative republic format. These people are at sea. I'm not even sure they know which federal governance system they're supposed to be under, because they're acting very much like it doesn't matter anymore. We can do anything we want. That's what I mean. Things have moved quite along swiftly here. I'm not sure. I'd like to see America dragged back from the brink. I'd like to see Donald J. Trump win in 2024. Do I think it can be done? No. And not as long as it's impossible. The whole voting system has become a complete mockery of what it was intended. It's become a criminal enterprise which is for sale. It's not a counting of votes among the eligible voters conducted in a fair and lawful means. Not anything like that. Not even in the neighborhood. The whole thing's rigged. And I said rigged. Not only can they rig it, get this, in some, maybe it's in all precincts, I should know this, but I don't. I think in certain precincts, let's say I'm in a race. I want to become city dog catcher, I don't know, some office. And my fearless opponent on the other side, the anti-dog catcher, the evil one, as we call him, the dog hater, the dog killer. Anyway, this guy, we're neck and neck in votes, Well, if I only win by X margin, let's say 2 votes out of the entire county or something, well, he can challenge that. He can say, I want to recount, right? But in other words, there's a certain margin where it's kind of like, you can recount all you want. You're not going to recount and somehow materially produce 17,000 votes. You got whacked in that election. Move on. So anyway, they can build in the number. They can build in the fractal, just like they do with slot machines in Vegas. They control the payout exactly in Vegas. You're an idiot if you walk into Las Vegas with money in your hand, unless you know when to walk out, and very few do. And that's why Las Vegas exists. You look around. You're surrounded by what? Multi-million-dollar buildings. Where'd all that money come from? Think about it, big boy. Well, anyway, the thing is that the federal government and the crooked mafias and the gambling casinos and all that, they're all the same guys. And they all have the same character traits, too. I mean, seriously. Mobsters, liars. Anyway, as you can see, I'm not exactly going to win any, shall we say, friend of Biden award anytime soon. But does that mean I think that Donald J. Trump is some sort of incarnation of the emperor? Who was it? Cyrus. I remember some of that mumbo jumbo last time. Kind of like turning him into this, cartoon figure? I mean, the guy's already a cartoon figure. You don't have to push that too far farther. I know Donald's weird. He's a very peculiar individual. And he's always talking about how smart he is. You ever notice that? And how eloquent he is? Hey, have I mentioned how eloquent and smart I am in the last 4 seconds? It's like, yes, you did. So you can deal with a guy who's not exactly, top-notch brain material. I mean, can you imagine Richard Feynman talking like that? Someone who really had a mind on him, like G.K. Chesterton or somebody, or Mark Twain, talking that way. No. So anyway, that'd be crazy. But the thing is, I don't want to think about old dead guys all day. Life's short enough, man. I just wanted to buck up and know there's another answer. In other words, I can be an alarmist, and I could become an American patriot, and I wouldn't mind picking up a gun to do it. The federal government does not have rights to my body, nor to my property, not by the federal charter we supposedly operate under. Now, if you wish, you traitors, to steal all the rights of the folk, then you must change the official name of this organization. It is no longer the United States of America. It is the Disunited Republics of some autocrat creep who hides for a living. But I don't give him any authority. I have not surrendered my sovereignty to him. He's just another hellion, as far as I'm concerned, to be fought tooth and nail with my blood if need be. Just paid a big old X right here. Because see, that went into the worldwide data web. And guess what? They're gathering all this right now. They could be building a case against me right now. In fact, there's this stuff out there, deep fakes, and I don't think they'd go so far as deep faking Mike Labor, although, who knows? There's no telling how low these guys will go. I mean, that's like asking a trick question. How low will a Democrat go? That's got to be a trick question. Anyway, the point being, I'm becoming a terrorist because I say there is a terror coming. Indeed, his name is Jesus. They used to say Jesus H. Christ. Maybe Holy, Jesus Holy Christ? I don't know. I'm not opposed to that one. But anyway, yeah, there is a terror coming. And he's got a sword, man. This sword's so sharp, it cuts down to between the sinews, in between the bones themselves, in between even the intention of your heart. He looks you in the eye and he knows exactly what you're thinking and what you've been about. And you know what he's going to measure you against? He's going to measure us all against. In fact, he measures himself against perfection. That's the only standard that will do. There's no second rate, what do you call it? Hey, you don't really need a Mercedes to get across the border. A Yugo will do it. All you got to do is get across the line. No. There's no favoring of persons with him. And if you do not meet the standard of perfection at all points, and trust me, you do not, have not, and shall not, me neither. No human ever has or will. With one striking exception. And that guy goes to bat for his children, all of them. Gathered from around the world, across the age, into one new people. You might call them a mighty throng. The Bible describes it as a not a mob, that doesn't sound right. A mighty group, that doesn't sound right either, which could not be numbered for its size. But we do know it kind of sounds that when the old guys wanted to talk big numbers, they didn't throw about illions and grillions and millions and stuff, or to the x to the 10th power to the 43rd something. No, they said myriads of myriads, 10,000s of 10,000s. So there's several hundreds of millions, at least in my peephole that I can see, my little hole. I see at least several hundreds of millions. Apparently that's a rather large crowd, because we can't number that. I can't count that. I mean, not I personally. I mean, if you give me a couple of thousand years, maybe I can count them. I don't know. But why are we doing it? What's wrong with you people? So anyway, it'd be like, how many rocks are there exactly in the state of New York? And that doesn't include blockheads, by the way. Okay. I just had to do that. I've got nothing against New York. It just seemed funny. So anyway, when you get old and this kind of semi-retired thing for me, it's brand new. I've heard for years that, some guys go out and golf or whatever, or they, take up gardening maybe, or, for guys who are married, maybe they could keep busy with like little house chores, Maybe the wife could say, well, finally, you can put on that screen door. And what would take a good handyman about an hour and a half, take me about 6.5 months. And it looked bad too when I got done. It wouldn't work right. But other than that. So anyhow, I do enjoy thinking about Jesus and how terrifically superior he is in all ways. And always, he is always superior. I mean, he's excellent, he's gentle, he's kind, he's wise, he's true, he's fierce, he's loyal. He can't be bought. Can't be bought. And won't be back down neither. He has affirmed his right to rule, and he's going to come down and set forth on earth a rather dramatic presentation thereof. He's coming and people are going to be so scared. Oh, I mean, mind-destroying fear at him. But there's nowhere to go. And, there's no escape neither. See, that's our problem as humans, ain't it? Right? You remember all that pseudo, quasi-ersatz experiment with social control involving paper and hankies over your nose? Remember that? See, you didn't get me on that one, did you? Clever wording eluded the censors. Censors. Well, they might be censoring us. Anyway, the point being, during the pandemic, didn't you see it? Governmental growth out the wazoo. And not only that, terrifically unwholesome and stupid government growth at that. Hey, let's regulate how many people can sit down in a church. 0. Hey, let's regulate how many people can sit down in a beauty parlor. 426. Or whatever it was, And it was just outrageous nonsense carried out by a bunch of traitors and liars. And I mean, they've been bought. And because what the whole idea was about was we're going to give you guys a little nudge here, see? We want to see how hard you're going to push back. Because we got a lot bigger controls coming down the line, and we kind of need to know beforehand how much force we're going to have to apply. Because we can apply as much force as it will require. Trust me. It will happen. But we just wondered whether we should bring atomic bombs. How reassuring. But think about it. Out of, I don't know, how many able-bodied young men are there in America? I don't care what your color is. And I don't care what your religion is. How many able-bodied young men are there out there from, say, 14 up to 64 and a half? I just still qualify. Who could and would be willing to take up arms against a traitorous autocrat who set themselves up vis-a-vis as if they were the legitimate American government, completely repudiating the Constitution in the process? Are you going to be able to tame 200 million men with rifles overnight? You could try. You could try. That's what this is about. America is one of the few places on the earth right now that is slowing down the worldwide takeover of insanity a little bit by virtue of they haven't talked you out of your weapons. Don't let them. Don't let them have your guns. But they can take your guns, sure, after they've killed you. Which take out as many of them as you can on the way. We ain't backing down. This is evil. This has gone beyond governmental differences. This is plain, flat evil. Now, I don't know, in 1933 or 4, when Hitler was kind of coming on and still was a real popular guy with a lot of people, and a lot of people still thought he was a real weirdo, which in fact he was. Besides being devil-inspired and stuff, oh, he was horrible. But anyway, in the 30s in Germany, I think Americans would do well to study those times, because what's happening is it's a revival of fascism. I've been kind of warning everybody wrong all these years about Marxism being the main threat. But the truth is, it's this weird blend where Marx is joining Hitler. Hitler is joining with big tech, which is building an AI thing. The whole thing is under the management, either directly or indirectly, of certain, shall we say, occult-based organizations with those powerful people that don't have addresses. But nonetheless, the Christians pray on. God's will be done. And whether we live or whether we die, whether we rise or whether we fall, we ain't backing down, and we ain't running away, and we're not going to act like a bunch of girls. You're going to have to take us down with power. But I'll also surrender if you can present legitimate evidence that you are the legitimate government under God in this time. I'll surrender. You want to starve me out by turning off my cyber dollars? You want to starve me out by cutting off my access into the interweb? Whatever you want to do. I'll come out and surrender at town hall, or go down and surrender in front of the Capitol building if you'd prefer. I'll have my hands up. You've turned me into a pauper. You've made me unable to care for myself. I can't even buy more bullets to shoot your soldiers with. I've become your dependent, whether you like it or not. You have to feed me, and you have to clothe me, and you have to put a roof over my head. It's human rights now. This has nothing to do with federal republic or the federal constitution. This has to do with international human rights. You must shelter me because it was you who impoverished me. That's a way to reasonably surrender. And there were people who went through the Nazi camps who survived on the other side. People of goodwill, people of good faith, people who went in believing Jesus and came out believing him more. And that wasn't always true. And there was a lot of sad stories. There were a lot of tragic stories. I'm not trying to undermine the Holocaust of those days. Well, actually, the little bit latter days, right up till mid-45, I guess. I don't know exactly when the camps quit operating. I should know that. But I knew the Allies liberated them not too long after the main bulk of the military battles were done. In other words, liberating a camp can't be job number 1, but it was at least job number 1.1. It wasn't job 2 or 3. But anyway, the point being, our guys, my old dad, he was one of them World War II GIs, and he was not any gung-ho militaristic guy. The only gun he had in the house was an old .22 single shot, a bolt-action rifle that my uncle, who was, I don't know that my uncle is even alive or dead. I'm guessing he's passed. My Uncle Don gave as a young man, as a teenager, for some reason, maybe for safekeeping. It was his varmint gun when he was a teenager, growing up. And so he went off to the military and into the war also. And he told Mom to keep care of it. And when he come back, he just never picked it up again. He didn't want nothing to do with guns after that. And I don't blame the guy. He saw some stuff. I know that. Well, my mom says when he showed up at the door, she said, I didn't even recognize my own brother. She said the man who left had brown hair and had young man's skin. Brown hair and young. Oh, I know. He used to have teeth. That guy who walked out of here 3.5 years ago, and so the guy who's standing there had gum in the ear, and his hair was shock white like an old man, and he was like maybe 22. I don't know how old Uncle Don was at that time. I never had a chance to talk with him about it, and I feel bad about that. I always thought he would have been a much more interesting guy to talk to than some of the folks I spent time, growing up talking to. Some people, they just tell you the same old story about how they got it, the raw deal, and how when they never treated us right, blah, blah, blah. Who cares about that stuff? Now, the day is still not over. I'm gonna bless the Lord. I'm gonna find a way to get on home here after a while. It's probably about a mile and a quarter from here, and knowing this old goat, it'll probably take me over 20 minutes to walk that. I don't think I want to make a video all the way down the road, because I actually do, just like walking, keeping my eyes more or less ahead, and I'm not really looking at anything in particular, just more or less 100 feet in front of me, or 200 feet, and then just not think about anything at all, and just be quiet on the inside, see what bubbles up. Somehow it's easier for me to be quiet on the inside if my body's moving on the outside. Apparently something's got to keep going somewhere. You guys have a good day, and when people say that things couldn't get worse, when I was a boy I always thought, oh, they could get significantly worse, and they probably will. Optimism ain't the answer, and pessimism ain't the answer. They're both the opposite sides of the same coin. They're based on man's wisdom. The goal isn't to be optimistic and hope for the best. No, it's more like this. Look, the dude who wrote this whole thing, it's been a little bit like this. If you ever read the Hobbit books, oh gosh, I wish I could remember. The Lord of the Rings. Now, that's some excellent writing. I love that style. That guy that's a classy writer. That Tolkien guy, man, that guy knows how to cook some words. Beautiful, beautiful work. But anyhow, the point being, you get into that. If you can imagine, one of the scenes where they're, say, under the dwarf mountain, they're trying to retrieve their treasure, and then they run across these hideous monsters down there. What they call them, glogs or blogs or something. Probably blogs, yeah. Orcs. Yeah, orcs, but then this whole ilk, this other batch of really gnarly ilks, sort of like super orcs, and of course it's dark, and you kind of a little bit, it gives you a feel, it's like we're not far from the border of hell, I can tell. And if you can imagine being in that and suddenly having a strong idea coming over you, hey, wait a minute, we're only on page 282 of book 2. We still got 340 more pages to go. And the author who writes us now, even though it looks scary for me inside the text, I already know I've arrived at the end of the book. He showed me the end, where he's got a big happy family sitting around him, and kind of like Thanksgiving, a lot of jokes, a lot of good smiles, and cute little kids running around, and crazy dogs and stuff. I mean, it's going to be a wonderful gathering, a huge kind of family gathering. It's going to be a formal dinner, a marriage dinner, a feast. It'll be like the food event to be never surpassed. He's the food himself. And at that time, we as people will first be able to process that and go, oh, yeah, I should have known that. Lewis talked about this. He said, the very fact that you know what the words I am hungry means and have experienced it strongly suggests that there is something in the universe called food. Well, he's that thing that is strongly suggested, and that's what helps you believe, because he wired it in. In other words, you don't arrive at faith. He arrives in you, and you wake up to him and say, oh, yes. So faith is almost a little bit like, don't confuse me, it's almost a little bit like remembering. Interesting idea. God thrives in you. You would do well to thrive in him. Trust me, he's wonderful. You guys have a good day.